Hello ladies and gentlemen, and movie lovers of all kind, and welcome back to the channel. As always, I am your host, Brett Murphy, and for today's video, I have a brand new ranking for you all. And I am going to be ranking all 7 of the Predator franchise movies. So Prey just released on Hulu and or Disney Plus, depending on where you live in the world, marking the 7th and latest film in this franchise. This time coming from the director of 10 Cloverfield Lane and starring an all Native American cast. To be honest, I was pretty disappointed to hear that this one wouldn't be coming to theaters, as a pretty big fan of the franchise. Nevertheless, is it a worthy new entry? Well, we're about to find out. Before I hop into the actual ranking itself, I just wanted to let you all know that I have an entire playlist dedicated to all of my ranking videos, so be sure to check that out, and I guarantee you'll find something you like. And so without further ado, let's hop right into things. Number 7. Alien vs. Predator Requiem. The only good things that this one has going for it is its R rating, because the first Alien vs. Predator was missing that, and it actually had some really cool costume design and practical effects. Sadly, you never really get to see them, because that's probably the biggest issue with this movie is the color grading. The movie is too damn dark. You can barely see what's going on screen at any given time. And some people will always say, oh, just turn your brightness up, but I don't think they understand how editing and color grading a movie works. You turn your brightness up, it's not all of a sudden going to lift that black gray cloud over the image. No, it doesn't work that way. This movie was darkened in the editing room. We don't have access to the original footage that we can just turn the brightness up. All you're doing is brightening up an already artificially darkened image. It just doesn't work. Sorry, I go off on a tangent sometimes when I talk about this movie's awful color grading, because it pretty much ruined the entire experience. Well, the movie's awful anyway, however, it just did ruin the good things in the movie, which there are very few of. I must say though that this movie probably has the most mundane and boring story out of both franchises, and definitely has the worst characters out of both franchises, any of the movies. However, the costume design and practical effects on the Predators and Xenomorphs are fantastic, and the Pred Alien is both disgusting and awesome. There are a few brief instances of mild entertainment here and there because it is very horror themed. However, on the flip side to that, it's really just not a good movie at all. Number 6. Predator 2. You'd think that I would have learned my lesson by now. When I did this ranking last, which was like 4 years ago if you believe that, I had Predator 2 at the bottom then too, and a lot of people gave me a lot of shit for it, but not much has changed. I still don't think the movie is very good at all. I like Bill Paxton, and I like how brutal the Predator is in this one. A lot of the practical effects are really good, and they hold up well. Everything else I don't care for at all. I love Danny Glover as an actor, and Gary Busey can always crack me up when he's being all hammy and over the top, but even that could not bring up my enjoyment for this one. I also thought that the city setting was not a good idea at all, and it did not play well with the Predator whatsoever. Number 5. The Predator. Okay, I've lightened up on this one ever so slightly in the recent years. I gave this movie a ton of hate when I did my last ranking and in my last review. Do I like the movie now? No, not at all, not really. It's kind of a guilty pleasure of mine though, if I'm being honest. I do like the majority of the cast. I feel like Boyd Holbrook is a pretty solid lead. I like Keegan-Michael Key, I like Olivia Munn. The only character I don't really like is Thomas Jane, which is kind of funny because he's probably the actor out of the bunch that I like the best. Sterling K. Brown has also grown on me a little bit in this movie as well. I had really high hopes from this one, coming from director Shane Black, who I am a massive fan of. The action in here was very solid, as expected. However, the story made some very questionable decisions. The CGI was pretty much god-awful, and there was just so much comedy spliced in here, like way too much. Some of the jokes I did crack up at, but there's so much thrown at you all the time, I'm not even sure who the comedic relief was supposed to be. I think it was just everyone. Some of the jokes are crude and rude in the right ways, but some of them are just plain ignorant and not really even remotely funny. So although yes, I do enjoy this one a bit more than I used to, it is still much more of a mixed bag than I was hoping for. Number 4. Alien vs. Predator. So I'm sure that more than one of you are probably scratching your heads right now with this placement. Long story short, Alien vs. Predator was my introduction to both of these characters and their iconic franchises. I was around 6 or 7 by the time it came out. It was only PG-13, so my parents were like, yeah, whatever, watch it. And it introduced me to both of these sci-fi worlds, and I immediately fell in love with them. Watching this movie now, I only have nostalgia for it because it's not a very good movie, okay? It will never make sense to me, or anyone else for that matter, except for the people who were making the money on this one, as to why they decided to make this movie PG-13 when every other movie in both of these franchises have only ever been R-rated. No, the characters aren't very good. No, the story doesn't really make all that much sense. And no, there is no expected gore or gross out moments. No predators ripping spines out. No, baby little xenomorphs bursting out of chests. All that stuff gets cut away from. However, what it does offer up is an extremely unique location that's really fun to explore, some great action sequences, some laugh out loud, laughably bad dialogue, and just a purely and simply plain old fun time. Like I said, I have a ton of nostalgia for that one, and that's the driving force behind why I rewatch this movie so often. As weird as it might sound, it's actually a kind of comfort movie to me because I've been watching it for so long. At the end of the day, if you're in the mood for a campy, goofy, schlocky B-movie good time, well, you're in luck, because this one has it all. Number 3. Predator. Yep, I can already now foresee the shit that I'm gonna take for this one. Pretty much everyone who starts a Predator ranking, they're assuming that the original is going to be at the top, but I really don't think that's the case. It really is just 1980s action Macho Man the movie with a Predator thrown in there. Don't get me wrong, all due respect to the original, I do think it has a lot of really great stuff going for it. Of course, I love Arnie, I love Carl Weathers, I love the Predator. This was our introduction to this iconic creature, character, monster, alien thing. I like that this one has an added element of mystery that most of the others don't have. But this movie is just filled with so much 80s cheese. I mean, there are multiple minute-long montages of our characters just firing their guns full blast at absolutely nothing. There is a lot of corny stuff in here. Not all the performances are really that great. And maybe it comes from me not growing up with this movie. I didn't watch this one till way later in life, and to be honest, I really wasn't all that impressed. Do I think it's a good movie? Yes, absolutely. Do I think it's a great movie and one of the best 80s actioners? No, not really. Number 2. Prey. It was unbelievably close between this one and that number 1 spot. I'd score them just about the exact same. For Prey, I love our lead character, I love the setting in the 1700s, I love the exploration of Native American culture, I think that the action was satisfyingly brutal and bloody, I think the Predator's redesign and new weaponry / tech was superb, the cinematography was beautiful, and the score was extremely fitting for the tone of the movie. There were some really intense sequences, and the final battle was great. However, it had a very slow start and had pacing issues throughout. There were some very wooden side characters, and the CGI was so-so. Number 1. Predators. And if you weren't already giving me some hate for putting Predator, the original, in 3rd place, you're definitely gonna give me some hate for putting this one in 1st. Look, I just think this one has it all when it comes to this character, alien creature, monster thing. I'm still not sure what to refer to it as 4 years later. It's just everything that this franchise should be. I found most of the characters to be relatively interesting. They all had different backstories that we dive a little bit into, and there were actually some refreshing twists and turns. I like this new setting because it's a jungle, but a jungle and then some, because it's an alien jungle. And it adds back in that element of mystery that the original had that none of the others have had. I think the action is great, I think it's well paced, I think there's a good blend of CGI and practical, and overall I just find it to be the most enjoyable movie in this franchise. So that is all for today's video, folks. Be sure to let me know down in the comments if you agree or disagree with my ranking, even though I know you definitely disagree. While you're at it, feel free to let me know how you would have ranked all 7 of the Predator franchise movies. If you enjoyed that video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button, and if you'd like to see more content, consider subscribing to my channel and ringing that little bell icon. That way you can be notified about all of my latest uploads. And as always, stay safe, thank you so much for watching, and that's a wrap. Hey you, yeah you, if you made it this far, just know I appreciate you, and while you're here, consider hitting that subscribe button.